60 point?
68 point.
60?
8.2.
68 point. Okay. So now what we have to do is create an x minus x bar, create y minus y bar, create x minus x bar squared, right? And then create x minus x bar, y minus y bar, right? And put it in that formula, you'll get beta hat. Put into that formula, you'll get beta hat, right? And similarly, you can get alpha hat by doing y bar minus beta hat x bar. Sure? Right? You see that this is a very simple formulation now. You'll get the value of beta hat, right? And what will that value of beta hat tell you? That value of beta hat will tell you how much y increase with x. So how much does the financial investment of a household increase if its income increases by 1 unit? That's what beta hat will be, no? This is a derivative of y with respect to x really. So if x changes by a small amount, how much does y change? Right? So you give an estimate of how financial assets go up for households as their incomes change. And what would alpha be? Alpha will be the financial assets for households which don't have any income at that month. Because financial assets are a stock, it covers the flow, so you can have a zero income at a particular point, but you can still have financial assets. Right? If a chartered accountant goes on a vacation, he has zero income in that month. Right? But doesn't mean that he doesn't have any financial assets. Right? Or a lawyer, even when the court closes for a month, lawyers don't earn any money, but they have some income, right? So, they have some financial assets. So, therefore, that will be alpha. Is this clear? So, you'll be able to do it as homework? Right? Okay. Now, this is one approach to finding the alpha and beta. This is another approach to finding the alpha and beta. Yeah?
But in this case, we are assuming that we will be making a straight line correlation. Then only I can assess the beta value by this formulation.
Yeah, so here, therefore, so what I am saying is that y is equal to alpha plus beta x is a formulation that I am assuming beforehand. So I am assuming a linear parametric form. But I can assume a non-linear form as well, except that my method of calculating things will change a bit.
Then my values will be different.
My formula will be different. Right? My formula will be different. And sometimes I can say that I don't want to assume any formulation, let the data discover what that formulation is. Right? In which case, I have what is called a non-parametric regression. Okay? Right? And I can say that I am not going to assume that there is just one formulation for the whole data. I have a lot of data and I am going to keep on fitting different regression. I am going to let the data discover on what parts of the data, what kind of regressions fit. Okay? Which is what machine learning does for you. So things like boosted regression trees and all those kinds of things will essentially help you do that. That's where we are really moving, right? Okay. So
sorry, but to reiterate, the alpha is the expenses when there is no income, as you said in this
the financial assets when there is no income.
Okay, and beta would be?
Beta would be the derivative of y with respect to x. So how much does y change per unit of x? So if income goes up by 1 unit, how much does the family's financial assets change? Right? Okay? Right. So now, how many of you know a little bit of derivatives? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It's been a couple of years.
Okay. So what I'll do is this second line of action I'll wait till we come to the derivatives point. Right? Okay? But then let me do a little bit more of this. Right? Okay. Let me now think of a situation where, so in this case, you know what is alpha and beta, how to calculate alpha and beta. But now suppose it's the case that financial assets don't necessarily only depend upon a person's income. They might depend upon a person's education as well. Right. So I might actually have yi is equal to alpha plus beta 1 xi plus beta 2 zi plus ei. Where the conditional mean of yi given x1 is equal to xi, x is equal to xi, z is equal to zi is given by this function, and this is the gap between the actual, right? So I'm now saying that a person's financial assets, average financial assets of a household depend upon what their income and education is. And this is the gap between each individual household and that conditional mean function. Right? So I made my conditional mean function a little bit more complicated, right? Okay. Now the point is, see, if I let me go back to my, without doing the calculus part, I'll still talk to you. You have done some matrices,
Yes,
right? So you know things like dot product of a matrix and all that,
Yes, yes.
right? So if two things are perpendicular, that dot product is 0 and all that, you know. Inverse of a matrix and all that, right? Okay, so we are fine. Then we don't need that calculus thing at all, right? Okay, right. So what were we saying? We saying initially, suppose this is yi and this is xi. This is the conditional mean function. Okay, so this is a conditional mean function. So if this is household which has income equal to x star, it says the conditional mean of yi given x equal to x star is given by this line. That is, what would be the average financial assets holding for household which have income equal to x star will be given by this line. But the individual might be somewhere around, right? So in the real world, what do I have is, I don't know this line, I have only these data points. Like मेरा y और x था ना, ये मैं data points को इधर लगा देता हूँ. कि first household का income है, first household का expenditure है, and I just to put a line through them. How do I put a line through them? This is the distance of the first observation. This is the distance of the second observation from the line, the third observation. I fit a line in such a way that the sum of all these distances is as small from the line as possible. The line is as close to all these points. So if this is E1, this is E2, this is E3, I call this square, because this one comes square करेंगे, and I find the line such that the summation of EI square is as small as possible.
So y square, y this square.
Because distances we said we think of as squares. Na? So E1 square is the distance of this from the regression line. E2 square is the distance of the individual household's financial assets from the financial assets, average financial assets of households which have the same income, and so on. Right? So total distance minimize kar. Now when I have x1, x2, x3, when I have x1 and x2, right, what I am going to do is, so think of, so when I had just one x and y, I had a two-dimensional picture. When I have two x's and one y, I will have a three-dimensional picture. On this axis, I will measure income. On this axis, I will measure education. Right? And on this axis, I will measure financial assets. Right? Now, suppose a household which has, say, some financial assets, a certain income, and a certain education, will be some point here. So I will map this point here. This household has this much income, this much education, and this much financial assets. Right? Okay? So let me think of joining this dot from 0. What I really have is a vector. Right? What I have is a vector. Let me call this vector y. Right? So in that three-dimensional space, I have a vector. Right? I want to find, what do I want to find? I want to find beta 1 x1, beta 1 x plus beta 2 z. Some point corresponding to this vector y, which is as close to y as possible. So I have to find some combination of x and z which is as close to y as possible. Right? Some combination of x and z which is as close to y as possible. Is this clear? Right? How will I find? So I want to find some point in this plane which is the closest to y, because every point in this plane is some combination of x and z. If I take any point here, it has some axis, some representation on the x and the y axis, right? Any point on this plane will have some representation on the x and some representation on the z axis. I am trying to find such points I'm trying to say y is equal to beta 1x plus beta 2z. So I'm trying to find a point here. Which point represents that y most closely? A point which is closest to y, no? So how will I, so suppose think of this now, don't think of these lines here. How will I find such a point?
I will just deduct EI.
Yeah, but where will I get the EI? If now think of this as a three-dimensional picture. Think of this as a wall on which you have put y. Think of this as a ground, as a volleyball court, right, or a basketball court, right? On one axis you have education marked, one axis you have income marked, and this is a wall which measures financial assets, right? And one particular financial assets point can be represented by a crane like this, right? So there is a crane, right, from this corner, right, and you are hanging with this crane, right? Okay, you want to find the point which is closest on the ground from the point at which you are hanging. Which point will that be? Straight line, right? So if you drop straight, that will be the closest distance to the ground, right? So this is the point, right? Okay. Now, if I call this vector y, if I call this vector e, and if I call this whole place x, then E has to be perpendicular to x. See, x1, x2 is the ground. You are hanging by the crane. You are dropping straight. So that straight line I will call E. Your E has to be perpendicular to x. It can't be bent like this, so it will take longer to travel. Right? So E has to be perpendicular to x. Right? Okay. Or, when the two vectors are perpendicular, they are perpendicular when their dot product is 0. Okay? Okay. Now, having said that, see now, so is this idea clear? Okay. Now see what I'm going to do. This is a beautiful idea because it helps us really generalize what we want to do. Okay? Suppose now मेरे पास data है y1, y2, y3, y4, y5. There are 5 households. Okay? I have data on this household's income, education. This household's income, education, income, education, income, education, income, education, and these are their financial assets. So y1 is the first household's financial assets. x1, z1, x2, z2, x3, z3, x4, z4, x5, z5, right? My regression model is yi is, say at the moment, I will just say beta 1 x1 plus beta 2 x2 plus ei. So there is no alpha. I am suppressing alpha for ease of exposition. Yeah, because I just want to invert 2 by 2 matrices and get one, right? Okay, so makes life a bit easier for me, right, from the exposition point of view. But alpha will generally be there, but we'll assume alpha is 0 at the moment. So, this is my regression model. Now I can write this. Suppose I write y1, y2, y3, y4, y5 as the whole matrix Y. So how many rows, columns does it have? 5 rows into 1 column. Right? This I now write x1, x2, x3, x4, x5 as all the 5 values of x. Right? And so call this z, okay? So that so that you don't get confused. Z1, Z2, Z3, Z4, Z5. Right? So how many, what's the dimension here? 5 rows into 2 columns. If I multiply this by beta 1, beta 2. Right? I will call this whole thing X now, capital X. Right? And I will call this whole thing beta. Right? Now how many rows and columns does beta have? 2 rows and 1 column. Plus, if I write E1, E2, E3, E4, E5. Right? So my E matrix is, I call this matrix E, which is 5 rows into 1 column. So look at first. If I multiply 5 rows into 2 columns into 2 rows into 1 column, what will I get? 5 into 1. I have 5 into 1 plus another 5 into 1 will give 5 into 1. Now start multiplying. What will I get? If I multiply this, you will get beta 1 x1 plus beta 2 z1 plus e1 is equal to y1. My first equation. Beta 1 x2 plus beta 2 z2 is equal to plus e2 is equal to y2. Similarly, beta 1 x3 plus beta 2 z3 plus e3 is equal to y3. Right, so I can, while I is equal to beta 1 x1i plus beta 2 zi xi plus zi plus ei, I can reproduce this whole set here. Now, if I write this as x, y, if I write this as capital X, I write this as a matrix beta, and if I write this as E, then I get y is equal to x beta plus E. Right? So I have E is equal to y minus x beta. Right? Y is equal to x beta plus E, so y minus x beta is equal to E.
So how did you arrive at that step? Y is equal to x beta plus E?
See, because this is my y matrix, this is my x matrix, this is my beta matrix, this whole thing, plus this whole thing is the E matrix. Okay. Now, if I multiply this, actually what does happen? I will get y1 is equal to beta 1 x1 plus beta 2 z1 plus e1. So, first equation here. Second equation, y2 is equal to beta 1 x2 plus beta 2 z2 plus e2. So, all these equations can be written in this, can be derived in this. So, if I call this x, if I call this beta, if I call this e, this is actually y, capital Y is equal to x beta plus e. Right? Therefore, e is equal to y minus x beta. अभी मैं क्या सीखा हूँ? x और e का डॉट प्रोडक्ट जीरो करना है. Right? But what is e? E is equal to 5 cross 1. X is what? 5 cross 2. Right? So can I multiply 5 cross 1 with 5 cross 2? No. But I can multiply x transpose into E. What will be x transpose? 2 cross 5. 2 cross 5 into 5 cross 2 will get 2 cross 2. Right? So I can multiply, right? X dash E can be multiplied. So I must set the dot product of x dash E to be 0. Yeah? I must set the dot product of x dash E to be 0 because x and E have to be perpendicular. E and x have to be perpendicular. X is the ground. E is from where E is your straight drop to the ground. So straight drop to the ground has to be perpendicular to the ground. And if for two things to be perpendicular, then dot product has to be 0. Right? Okay. So if E dash x has to, x dash E has to be perpendicular, then it means that, but what is E? E is y minus x beta. Right? E is y minus x beta. Because y is x beta plus E. So E is y minus x beta. So we have
So